As the friendship between King Adeola and Amara grew stronger, whispers began to spread throughout the palace. Some of the courtiers, noblemen and women who served the king, noticed how often he disappeared and how happy he seemed when he returned. They became curious and suspicious. One day, a group of courtiers decided to follow the king secretly. They hid behind trees and bushes, careful not to be seen. They watched as King Adeola entered the hidden garden and saw him laughing and talking with Amara. The courtiers were shocked and angry. How could the king be friends with a mere palace maid? They whispered among themselves. Feeling jealous, the courtiers decided to do something to keep Amara away from the king. They knew she was kind and gentle, so they came up with a plan to make her look bad in front of the king. They spread rumors that Amara was only pretending to be nice to get closer to the king and take advantage of him. The rumors quickly reached King Adeola's ears. At first, he did not believe them. He knew Amara was a good person. But as the rumors grew louder, he began to doubt. He wondered if maybe the courtiers were right. He decided to talk to Amara about it. When Amara arrived at the garden that day, she could see that the king was troubled. His usual smile was gone, replaced by a worried frown. "Your Majesty, is something wrong?" she asked gently. King Adeola sighed. "Amara, I have heard some rumors about you. They say you are only pretending to be kind to get close to me. Is this true?" Amara's eyes filled with tears. She was hurt that the king would even think such a thing. "No, Your Majesty. I would never do that. I care about you and this garden. I would never pretend." The king looked into her eyes and saw the truth in them. He realized how foolish he had been to listen to the courtiers. He felt ashamed for doubting Amara, his friend. I am sorry, Amara," he said softly. "I should never have doubted you." But the damage was done. Amara was deeply hurt by the rumors and by the king's doubt. She decided that it might be best to stay away from the garden for a while. Without Amara's daily visits, the hidden garden began to change. The flowers that once bloomed so brightly started to wilt. The trees no longer swayed cheerfully, and the stream seemed to flow more slowly. King Adeola felt the sadness in the air every time he visited the garden. He missed Amara's songs, her laughter, and the way she made everything seem brighter. The king realized just how much he had come to rely on her friendship. The garden that had once been his secret hideaway now felt empty and cold. He knew he needed to make things right with Amara, but he did not know how. One day, as the king sat alone on the bench in the dying garden, a little bird flew down and landed on his shoulder. It chirped a sad tune, almost as if it were trying to tell him something. King Adeola looked at the bird and then around the garden. He understood then that the garden was not just a place, but a symbol of his friendship with Amara. Without her, it could not thrive. Determined to set things right, King Adeola called for his advisors and ordered them to gather all the courtiers. When they were assembled, he addressed them with a stern voice. "I have heard the rumors you have spread about Amara, the palace maid. They are lies, and they have hurt both her and this garden." The courtiers looked down, ashamed of what they had done. They realized their jealousy had caused more harm than they intended. The king continued, "Amara has been nothing but kind and caring. It is because of her that this garden, and even my own heart, has flourished. We must all learn to be more like her." After the meeting, King Adeola went to find Amara. He found her in her small hut on the edge of the palace grounds, tending to a few potted plants. When she saw the king, she quickly stood up, unsure of what to say. "Amara," the king began, "I am truly sorry for doubting you. The garden is dying without you, and so is my heart. I miss our friendship. Please, will you forgive me and return to the garden?" Amara could see the sincerity in the king's eyes. She knew he was truly sorry. She smiled softly and nodded. "I forgive you, Your Majesty. I will return to the garden." With Amara back in the garden, everything began to change. The flowers slowly lifted their heads again, and the trees started to sway in the breeze. The stream seemed to sing once more, its waters flowing swiftly over the stones. King Adeola felt a lightness in his heart that he had not felt in weeks. He realized just how important Amara was to him and to the garden. As days passed, Amara returned to her routine of caring for the garden. She watered the plants, sang her beautiful songs, and shared stories with the king. The garden, which had been waiting and sad, began to flourish once again. Bright flowers burst into bloom, their colors more vibrant than ever before. Birds returned to sing in the trees, and even the animals seemed happier. King Adeola was amazed at how quickly the garden returned to life with Amara's care. He also noticed that his own heart felt different. It was no longer hidden or closed off, instead, it was open and full of joy. He realized that the garden's magic wasn't just in the plants and flowers but also in the friendship and love he shared with Amara. One day, as they were sitting together on the bench, King Adeola turned to Amara with a serious look in his eyes. "Amara," he said, "I have learned something very important from you. This garden taught me that love and friendship are what make life beautiful. I was lonely before you came here, but now I feel like I found a part of myself I didn't know was missing." Amara blushed, her cheeks turning pink. "I feel the same way, Your Majesty. This garden has become a special place for me, not just because of its beauty but because of the time we've spent together." King Adeola took her hand gently. "Amara, you have a kind and loving heart, and I admire you greatly. I know that I am the king and you are a maid, but I would like to ask you to stay by my side, not as a servant, but as my friend and perhaps, in time, even more." Amara's eyes widened with surprise and happiness. She could hardly believe what she was hearing. "Oh, Your Majesty, I would be honored to be your friend and whatever else may come," she replied with a smile. From that day on, Amara and King Adeola continued to care for the garden together. The villagers began to notice how much happier the king seemed and how the palace was filled with laughter and joy. The courtiers, who once were jealous, now saw the goodness in Amara and respected her for her kindness and wisdom. As time went on, the bond between the king and the maid grew stronger, and their friendship blossomed into a deep and true love. They spent many more days in the hidden garden, not just as king and maid, but as two hearts that had found each other in the most unexpected place. And so, the hidden garden became a symbol of their love, a place where friendship, kindness, and love could bloom as beautifully as any flower. The garden, once the king's secret, became a shared treasure, a reminder that true happiness comes from opening one's heart to others. And they lived happily ever after, with the garden blooming brighter each day, just like their love.